Hello world, I am Curtis Simpson and this is Jective Typography News number 23. Today is November 2nd, 2025 and plenty of news to go over this week. I did spend a lot of time looking at non-typography stuff. If you weren't aware, this week was Adobe MAX. I think Figma had something too, but to be honest, I didn't pay attention. Adobe MAX was basically all week long. And then Affinity came in and for me stole the show. So I'm going to be talking about both of those. We got two different stories for Affinity today because I want to go over the typography, want to go over the rebrand that they just did to come out with the new announcement. But then at the end of the show, going to talk about a little bit more about what actually happened, what Canva ended up doing with it, what was this big announcement that we waited a month for, and then. Got plenty of typography though, because the typography doesn't just stop just because it's essentially design week. So I have new typefaces from Brandon Nickerson, typeface from Fontfabric, the Designers Foundry, TypeType, Hex, and then I have a preview from another designer. Hopefully I'm saying this name right. Probably not. I should have looked this up. Igor Freiberger. I've been playing around with a beta of his, and I'm going to showcase that because I think it's really cool. And then we also have a new Type Foundry. Not every day, not every week that we have a new Type Foundry. New Type Foundry from a familiar face. FontLab put out a new app, and surprisingly, it's not typography related. And then we have Adobe MAX, and we're going to finish with Affinity. I'm saving Affinity for the end for two reasons. One, I did a live stream during the reveal. So I did like 2 hours of Affinity content on Thursday during the reveal, October 30th. So maybe some of you are watching who watched that. Hello, welcome back. This is what I typically do. But the second reason I'm going to wait till the end is because I could spend this entire time talking about Affinity again, and I don't want to do that. I want to get through the typefaces. I guess I have three reasons. The third reason is Wednesday, I'm going to be doing an Affinity review. So this is a little bit of a play on like doing a review of a product, but also like a review as in like a publication. So I don't know, I can't think of, like we had Las Vegas Review Journal. So like the same way that this is typography news, I'm planning on doing sort of like an ongoing journalistic review of Affinity as the new Affinity by Canva, the new Affinity Canva, or Affinity Studio. So that's going to be starting on Wednesday. It is not going to be tutorials. For anybody that wants to see Affinity tutorials, that's not me. That's not what I'm doing. I cover typography, cover the news about typography, but I think this is an app that is, it just makes sense to be doing some sort of coverage over. So I'll be doing like an ongoing review of it as I explore the product more, and we'll see how long that goes. It might not be like every single week, but maybe we'll do like week 1 review, 1 month review, 1 year review, whatever. But we'll get to that. Let's talk about Affinity a little bit right now. I'm going to switch to the screen. Let's see if it's still set up. I had my face moved all over during the live stream on Thursday. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my face cam. Typically, I turn it off so that I don't block anything. I like to see streamers. I like to see their face on the screen, but I don't want to, I don't pay enough attention. I get excited to what I'm talking about, and then I end up, I end up blocking things that I'm talking about, or I just leave my face on the screen and I talk about that. So this is not actually the Affinity website. This is, It's Nice That, which if you don't know It's Nice That, go check it out. It's nicethat.com. I do have this article, bold AF, the Affinity Rebrand. I have this linked in the description along with everything else I'm going to talk about today. None of those links are sponsored, although I do have an affiliate link for Audible that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But none of the stories are sponsored. They never will be. I'll never be sponsored by a Type Foundry or Type Designer. I don't think that it aligns with presenting objective news. So with that said, I have this article that I wanted to point out. I'm not going to read all of it, but it does a really good job of talking about the Affinity branding. Let's just go ahead and scroll through this Affinity by Canva page, reduce the motion. And you can see they've got a new brand. If you were familiar with the old brand, You've probably seen it on this channel a bunch of times if you're a regular, because I open up Affinity Publisher every week. And this looks markedly different. New typography, new colors, new aesthetic, and I think they do just an excellent job with this. Regardless of the product itself, like thinking of this not as a user, but as somebody observing branding, someone with an MBA, someone with a graphic design background. The branding case study of this is just a masterclass of differentiation and disruption. And there are a lot of people that I've heard in this past week that have been pretty cynical about this release. Time will tell what happens, and that's part of what the Affinity review is going to be about too, is just kind of like following this story and see if it lives up to its promise or if the naysayers turn out to be right. So this article here, let's see who wrote this. Jenny Brewer interviews let me double check, Tom Carey. Tom Carey is the creative director for Affinity, and she interviewed him talking about the rebrand, not talking about like what the product, the product release, what everybody else is talking about right now. Interviewed him about the rebrand. I don't know if there's anything actually on the screen to look at. A little bit of typography and stuff. We're going to pull up some typography here in a second, though. You can't make these any bigger. So there were a lot of people that worked on this all at once. Let's just go ahead and scroll through this again, and I'll talk about what the article is presenting. So she interviews Tom Carey. He is the creative director of Affinity. He headed up this rebrand, and that was in collaboration with Design by Twist. They wanted it to feel connected to Canva, but differentiated, like, not like Canva. It wanted to feel its own thing, but part of Canva. And then the big thing was differentiating from other design software. So like while the UI and the interface looks like Affinity used to, looks like professional design software, this branding, this typography looks completely different from everything else that you see. I didn't have this planned, but let's just go look at Adobe real quick. You can see the Adobe, this is going right into Creative Cloud, isn't it? That's fine-ish. But we all know the Affinity or the Adobe logo up here. Very corporate, it's classic. I know I'm zooming in a ton, but over here on the left, that's what a lot of stuff look like. You go to DaVinci Resolve, you go to any design application, basically uses that same sort of like clean sans serif. Affinity is really trying to like stand out, I think, as like the underdog and kind of taking a like David and Goliath shot here, even though they are owned by a Goliath with Canva. But they ditched the rectangular icons. Let's go ahead and pull them up right here. I don't think you'll be able to really see these. We used to have these three icons, probably familiar with them: Affinity Designer, Affinity Publisher, Affinity Photo. They were just these geometric, abstract shapes. And aside from the color, I would never know which one was which. If you put these in grayscale, I would never know. Now I know that the Affinity A is the Affinity A. That was designed by Rob Clark. And he created just that specific A. Obviously it was collaborative as well. Let's see if we can find, it's up here in the logo, but I want to see if we can find the actual icon. I don't actually see it. Well, it's up here in the left here. That's a font we're going to talk about here in a little bit. It's up here in the left. I know it's teeny tiny on the screen, but they're using this green, they're using the new A, and they're using this new typography, and it's by Ono Type Co. We've talked about them a few times, but this is specifically based on their Swear typeface. So let's go ahead and pull this up. This is Swear. It has existed for a little while. 72 styles, 6 weights, 4 optical sizes, 2 italics, and it's pretty wild. And this is available for trial, so let's just go ahead and look at that right now. I had a plan to pull this up next to this, so let's go ahead and do this and this. Tap out of that. I do have all of these downloaded right here, so we can kind of compare it. So these are the 4 different styles for, I guess you're going to get a little preview of the new Affinity after all. These are the 4 different styles. This is Swear Banner Demo. I know it's a little cramped. We'll get through this. Swear Banner, Swear Deck, Swear Display, and Swear Text. So you can see they had these 4 different versions here. but none of them really match up with what we're seeing over here from the Affinity typeface. And that's because it's completely bespoke. So this is by No Type, but it's not just a copy of their square typeface. It's based on those bones. You could probably see a little bit of the F there shining through with the freedom. And then you can kind of see how the E's and stuff like that, that calligraphic, what would you call it? Contrast. You can see some of that coming through as well. And then with the M and things like that. So like the bones are similar, but the Affinity Serif, which is what this is called, Affinity Serif, it has more like flared terminals on it. Whereas these here, you know, you've got these really thorny ones. You got these big Clarendon, almost slab serif ones for the second and fourth ones. And then you've got these really small traditional serifs in the middle there. Let's just go ahead and look at the, maybe we can find it. So we can see Obsessed there. I thought, yeah, I had something called Fresh AF on here somewhere. Anyway, I just wanted to point these out so you can kind of see where it's coming from. But they've managed to do it in a way that does feel fresh and new for Affinity. So they also use this fresh, this fresh.af is no mistake. The new file type for Affinity is .af. So they used to have AF Design, AF Photo, AF Pub for the 3 different apps. Now all 3 apps are in one, so it's just .af for everything. So that's another great marketing strategy, just being able to do like .af and it also mean, you know, 2 different things. It's pretty fun, and it's something that I just don't think that Adobe could pull off. I don't think it's something that a lot of places could play off. One thing to note though, this .af thing, Abercrombie and Fitch used to do, they probably still do, they used to do soft AF. So they're Abercrombie and Fitch AF, so they used to do soft AF. So not entirely original here, but it's still pretty cool, and it's fun. And it does really differentiate them from a lot of these other design players, and particularly Adobe, in my opinion. So great work from Tom Carey, designed by Twist, No Type, and Rob Clark working on this. And it's also something that was designed by a committee, because they do have like an actual design board with a ton of big names that you would hear that I'm not going to read through right now. And so for something that was more or less designed by committee, Tom Carey must be an incredible captain to this ship, because being able to pull this all together and make it feel cohesive and make it feel impactful and disruptive like this, I do think that aside from being essentially an Affinity fanboy at this point and not being able to be entirely objective, I do think that this branding in general, regardless of my feelings about the product, is really great at differentiating and not trying to appear exactly the same. On the opposite side of that, you know, the old Affinity, it really did kind of have to prove itself and look professional. It had to look like a design app because they wanted people to take them serious. Now they're owned by Canva. They've got more money than they've ever had, and they're giving this away for free because of it. So let's move on. Let's get into some new typefaces. Oh, but before that, I'm going to do something that I've never done on this channel before. And that is, let me go ahead and switch back to the screen cap, turn on my face. Maybe, there I am. And that is an attempt to make some money. I've never monetized this channel. I'm not a YouTube partner. I don't have any sponsors. But the one thing that I do have is affiliate links on my book reviews. And right now they have a promotion on Amazon for Audible. You can get 3 months for 99 cents per month. And I cannot stress how much I can't, by terms of service, I'm not allowed to say like what I would earn off of this, but I can't stress how much it would really help the channel if you would just do 1 month for 99 cents. You can cancel after that if you want. I have it on my phone. I use Audible. I do use Libby and I use Hoopla through my library to get free audiobooks. And I do that way more than I do Audible, just to be upfront. But I do have like, I don't know, over a year of Audible books on there. I have all the Witcher books. I have all of Robert Greene books. I have like Creative Act by Rick Rubin on there. I have a bunch of books on there that I want to listen to over and over and over, because while I love Hoopla and Libby for books that I'm going to listen to like once, I don't want to have to wait in line if the book's not available for me right then. So that's my pitch. It's 99 cents. And you can do that for 3 months. So basically you can get 3 Audible audiobooks for like under $3. But if you just do it for 1 month and you want to cancel, that would still really, really help the channel. Let's move on to typefaces. The first one is from Brandon Nickerson. I'm going to take my face off the screen so I don't forget about it. The first one's from Brandon Nickerson. This is BN Brownstone. And as you can see, the price tag on there is $0. Much like Affinity, this one is free. But unlike Affinity, this one's only free for a limited time. So go ahead and download this now if you want it, because all of Brandon Nickerson's typefaces, I'm a broken record with this, all of his typefaces are free on launch. So for about a week or so, they'll be free, sometimes less than a week, but I usually give it a week. This one came out earlier in the week, so go get this right now. Link is in the description. Again, I have no affiliation or sponsorship from any of the typography stuff that I talk about. My one thing is that Amazon link. But I always recommend downloading these, because you never know, you might want it, and you save yourself $60 down the road if you do want it. So let's go ahead and read the description on this, and then I'll scroll back through these. Actually, we can scroll through these as I read. Let's go back to the top. I'm going to read his description so that it's as objective as possible, and then I'll talk about it a little bit. BN Brownstone is a bold display serif built for visual drama and typographic rhythm. Brownstone's structure blends sharp vertical contrast with soft sculptural curves. The uppercase forms evoke engraved stonework, tall, confident, and meticulously spaced, while the lowercase introduces expressive motion and warmth. Alternates like the stylistic A add ornamental personality without compromising legibility. I think the alternates are the big difference in this one compared to a lot of his typefaces. If you can't tell, this is more or less a display typeface. The character set is not huge. There's glyph count of 254, so bigger than some display typefaces. There's the stylistic A that he was talking about in the description there. So 254 glyphs is more than some display typefaces, but it's it's not like a large number of glyphs for a typical font that you would use for anything big. So just 3 open type features on this. You can download it right now for free. But the big difference, I think, with this one are the swashes and stuff like that. Let's go ahead and scroll down to them. I think it looks nice. It's a pretty compressed, bold, serif typeface. It looks fun. It's got a little bit of flair to it. And I think that's mostly why I do cover these Brandon Nickerson releases every time. 1, because they're free, and I think a lot of people can benefit from getting a free typeface. But 2, they're visually interesting. He does a great job with these specimens. He does a great job with the typeface themselves. Sometimes they're revivals, sometimes they're not. But you can see here, typically we would just see the basic characters and stuff like that. But he's got 2 rows here of swashes, and they don't have a ton of, let's see if we can get back to that. They don't have a ton of, I don't want to throw shade here, but they don't have a ton of extra effort into them. You can see it's basically 1 swash added onto all of these different capitals on the left there. There's a little bit more variety in the lowercase swashes there, but it might work for a title or a headline or something, or a poster if you need it. And like I said, it is free from Brandon Nickerson right now. So go check that out if it strikes your fancy. If not, we have another one here. This is from Fontfabric, and this is Trixy. Hopefully this one opens up here. It's been a little slow. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and read the description on this one as well, and then we'll come back and we'll look through these specimens in a little bit more detail. Let me scroll down to the bottom here. You could probably get an idea of what's going on already, but let's see. Can we zoom in on this? Yeah, it looks pretty good. Okay. A little broken, but I think it looks better on the screen. Trixy is a condensed serif typeface inspired by the bold, experimental Cyrillic lettering found on Soviet-era book covers of the mid-20th century. Starting from Cyrillic and later expanded into Latin, Trixy combines narrow proportions, sharp serifs, and high contrast with a dynamic retro character. That was probably clear, maybe not the Cyrillic part. The family comes in 2 styles, Trixy Stories and Trixy Tales, each offering 5 weights from light to bold. Stories delivers a refined expressive tone with rich set of ligatures and stylistic alternatives, while Tales pushes the expression further with sharper details and elongated swash-like legs. Okay, let's go back up to the top here and take a look at these specimens. Oops. And then I do have these. This one is available as a trial. I didn't mention anything about a trial in Brandon Nickerson's typeface because, like I said, that one is free. But we do have a trial of Trixy here that we're going to look at in just 1 second. So if you do like this, they have a free trial on the website. Obviously, don't use it for anything that commercial, but you can download it, test it out. And I do believe that it is the full version of the trial font. So that's nice to see too. I might be wrong on that. We'll check in a second. But the one thing I wanted to point out was this right here. I thought that this specimen here was a nice little nod to the inspiration of those Soviet era books. But the interesting thing I found about this was that this did start out as a Cyrillic typeface, and then they expanded it to Latin. And I'm going to completely butcher these two names, but I'll give them a go to give them their credit. The designers were Vika Usmanova and Ivalina Martinova. So we've got some pretty Eastern Bloc names there. I don't know what the correct way to say those types of names. Slavic, is that the correct term? But yeah, so we've got a typeface that was originally designed in Cyrillic and then expanded into Latin, which for this channel particularly, I mostly cover Latin typefaces, and then maybe they're expanding them into other other scripts like Greek or Cyrillic. So I do think that probably created an interesting aesthetic in the sense that they approached it from the opposite of what a lot of Western type designers are typically doing. So it is condensed, as you can see, so it's not going to be super usable in a ton of cases, but I think that it's going to be pretty interesting, unique condensed typeface for very specific use cases. How should I say this? It's not going to work for everything, but there's going to be that moment when you stumble upon it again and it just feels like perfect for the use case that you need it for. There's a lot of the Cyrillic there. You can see a lot of interesting ligatures and things like that too. Not all of this is Cyrillic. Some of this here is Latin, but really interesting ligatures, discretionary ligatures there. And you can see that it does come in, gosh, sorry. I'm trying to look at my notes here. I spilled water on my face. I know you can't see it, but I'm struggling behind the screen right now. So this is from Fontfabric. Let me go ahead and pull this up in Affinity and I'll keep talking about it. These are the two different ones here. There's Trixy Stories and Trixy Tales. So there's two different subfamilies for this. It is variable, so we can go ahead and do this right here. Make it really thin, make it really fat. You don't have there's not a ton of difference there, but there is a noticeable difference there. Let's take this back to the regular. There's 5 weights. There's light, regular, medium, semi-bold, and bold. So maybe that'll be expanded someday, maybe not. When I first looked at this, I thought these look exactly the same, and you can put them on top of each other, and you can go into like outline mode with this. Let me get this into advanced. You can go into outline mode with this, and they line up perfectly. So I was like, I can't figure out what the difference is. I had to go back, read it, and the difference is basically this. Some of Tales has, as opposed to Stories, some of Tales has like extra swashes and things like that. I did not go through and look at all 791 glyphs to see which ones were different between the two. But if you wanted an idea of what you're getting, this is going to be like the Stories are a typical, not typical, but it does have the traditional wedge serifs on there. And then this one here's got that spiked leg on it. So it's kind of interesting. And I could see pairing these two up, to make some interesting combinations and just have a little bit difference. Do I think that this could have been built into one font and just use these as alternate characters? Yeah, I do. I don't think you could get away with just one variable font file, but I'm not a type designer. I'm not sure why they chose to do that. And maybe some people do prefer to have, two separate font files for each of these, even though it could be achieved in a single variable typeface. but I think that these specimens look incredible. And you can see there, they put it in blocks of text. I didn't try to put it in blocks of text because it's so condensed, so narrow that I just can't imagine it being very legible. Oh no, they actually didn't. They set that in, that's a sans serif in the background, and then they're just printing over it with Trixy. So that's Trixy. The last one, we didn't look at purchasing and license and stuff because it was free and Brandon Nickerson has a great license. But let's go ahead and look at the purchase price and the license on this one, because I do think it's important, as I always say, that the typeface can be as nice as it wants to be, but if the license and the price sucks, then it doesn't really matter how nice it looks. So I think this one's reasonable for sure. $190 for all 10 styles. That's going to be all 5 weights for each of those subfamilies: Trixy Stories, Trixy Tales, and you get 2 variable fonts that will give you all the weights in each one of those. I always do the price for desktop, so it's $190 for desktop. It's a perpetual license. But I do think the typeface, I do think that the license in general could be better. I don't like that and this is subjective, but I don't like that the web font is not perpetual. Oh, it does say there's a perpetual option. So you'd have to look into that, I guess. Maybe you'd have to reach out to them for that. But I don't want to have to remember to pay for a web typeface every year. And then they've got digital ads broke out. I don't love that either, but it is what it is. So it's not the worst typeface license I've seen, and the price is very reasonable. So maybe they just broke this down, and typically they would be charging you $380 for the font, and they're only charging you $190 because maybe you don't want to run any ads. But capitalism is capitalism, as I always say. If somebody wants to offer it at this price and somebody wants to pay for it, I have absolutely no problem with that. So very nice, interesting typeface. Not going to be used for everything, but might be perfect for some things. So that is Trixy by Fontfabric. The next one we have is Berna, and this is by the Designers Foundry. They have some really cool specimens on Instagram. So let's just go ahead and look at these now because they actually don't exist on the website. So they have this one up here in the banner, but then you go down and it's just the normal Type Foundry stuff that you would expect to see on a web page, on like a font web page. So let's go ahead and look at these specimens on Instagram, and then we'll go over and learn a little more about the typeface. Actually, we could read this right here. Let's just go ahead and read this while we're here, and we'll look through these because I really, really like these specimens. And you'll see like this typeface isn't something incredibly different from what we've seen in the past. But these specimens can kind of really help market it. I think that a lot of foundries don't quite put enough effort into their specimens. I don't think that's necessarily what a lot of type designers excel at. I think they excel at making the actual characters and glyphs and the engineering and stuff like that goes into a typeface. And maybe they don't really excel at the marketing, but this makes such a huge difference. So I'm going to go ahead and read what they've got written here because it's pretty concise. Yeah, let's just go ahead and read it here. I was planning on reading it on their webpage, but this looks pretty similar. Berna, a versatile neo-grotesque typeface that merges modernist principles with Swiss tradition. So that should be pretty obvious, the Swiss tradition here. Reinterpreted through a contemporary and functional lens. Berna balances geometric precision with expressive curves and shapes. The family designed by Andrea. I looked up how to say this name. Hopefully I'm saying it right. Andrea Bijot. Includes 16 styles, 8 upright and 8 italic, plus a variable font. So you're gonna have one variable font file that can do it all. It's got two axes, one for weight, one for italic. And then it says extensive open type features and stylistic sets offer a broad range of alternatives. I did look up that, but it looks like it has 12 open type features that are listed on the website. So it says that it's named after the asteroid 1313 Berna. So that's why they've got all of these space themed specimens. But as you can see, this is pretty much, it's like Helvetica that's not Helvetica, right? It's like a Swiss inspired neo-grotesque. And these types of specimens really can set something apart and get someone's attention. Of course, all the features need to be there and the typeface needs to be functionally good. But this can be the difference between all of these other different neo-grotesque sans serifs that get released almost every week. It feels like we're talking about some Helvetica alternative. But let's go ahead and look at this one in a little more depth here. I don't have a trial for this. They don't have any trials, but we'll look at the font license and stuff afterwards. I think you can get a pretty good look at what this is. And if you're familiar with any of these neo-grotesque classics, you're going to be pretty familiar with this. So you can see here they've got 8 Roman, 8 italic for a total of 16 styles. Like I said, there are 2 axes to a variable font, so you can get all 16 of these plus everything in between in one variable font. The glyph count is 867, so pretty extensive. You know, we talked about earlier, Brandon Nickerson's display typeface had like 254, I think. So we're looking at like, I don't know, 3 to 4 times the amount of glyphs. So you get an idea of like, this is a really going to work as like a workhorse typeface for you. So there are 12 different OpenType features listed on here that I'll showcase. But I don't think we necessarily need to spend a ton of time looking at these, all of these specimens and stuff, because I think you'll probably get a pretty good idea of what's going on. You can see some of the alternates here, though. They've got this giant arrow. So you can see like they've got the R here, if you can see this crazy arrow. They've got the R, and then they've got the traditional R with a little bit of kick on the leg of it. And then you've got 3 different options for the A, where you've got the traditional one, you've got one with a little tail, you've got the single story A, you've got alternates for the G, 3-story versus 2-story, and you've got the alternates for the K here as well as the Y. So I'm sure there's even more that I'm not noticing. They've got an uppercase alternate for the K or for the Y here as well. Looks like they've got some fun parentheses and stuff. That's kind of cool too. So these are the types of things that can really make the difference between any of these neo-grotesques, because they can at first glance all appear to be incredibly similar. Number one, the variable font, that significance can't be overstated in 2025. If a workhorse typeface isn't variable, it's kind of hard to look at it too closely unless it's free or incredibly cheap, because there are just too many other options in this category to not be variable. So that's great to see from the Designers Foundry here. And here are some of the features. We probably looked at most of these just now in those specimens, where you can see like the alternates for the Y, K, stuff like that. So I won't go over those again. But there's no trial on this, like I said, but let's go ahead and look at the license here. It's okay. They do have this special licensing thing here, but I think this is mostly, it says films, TV shows, video games, custom license, stuff like that. So we've got our traditional 3 here, desktop, web, and app, which I am perfectly fine with. The smallest license is up to 2 computers. We're going to do this for desktop, full family, of course. You got to have the full family. We want that variable font. And it is 240 right now. So 240 for 240 for 16 styles, or all of that crammed into one variable typeface. You know, that's just going to be an absolute workhorse for you. We've looked at a ton of these this year. I'm probably going to have to do some sort of recap of all these workhorses at the end of the year. Let me know if that would be interesting to you, because from the very first Typography News, we've been covering these geometric, Swiss-inspired, or not geometric, sorry, these neo-grotesque Swiss-inspired typefaces. So it might be cool to do kind of a showdown. Is that what it's called? Showdown? Why does that word sound so weird? A showdown of all of these different Helvetica-ish typefaces compared. But yeah, 240, I think that's incredibly reasonable for a workhorse typeface. You know, 16 styles. You've got the italic and the Roman built into one variable font. That seems good to me. The next one here is from TypeType. We cover TypeType quite a bit on here because they're always putting out really beautiful typefaces. Spoiler alert, not my favorite when it comes to the license. So I'll try to do my best not to complain about it this week. You guys have heard me complain about it enough, but this is TT. Hopefully I'm saying this right. I don't know. Actually, I've never thought about this. Is it Regins or Regins? It's got to be Regins, right? TT Regins. That's what I'm going to go with. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Hopefully that's right, because I think it's supposed to be royal. Regin sounds kind of royal, right? They did have a couple of posts on Instagram that I wanted to look at, because I think that the description on Instagram here is more concise and better than the one on here because on their website, you get one sentence. So specimens, we're going to look at these on the website because they're great. But the description here, we're going to look at on TypeType's Instagram. So this is TT, I'm going to say Regins. TT Regins, a font with royal character. TT Regins is a Scottish modern serif. Striking contrast and sharp triangular serifs give this font a stern and commanding character. Very royal of them. While refined forms, enlarged lowercase letters, and slightly condensed static proportions add a touch of grace to its design. I would agree. I feel like this feels very graceful. TT Regins is highly versatile and functional. Different styles can be used for different tasks, creating font pairs within a typeface. We're going to look at these here in a second. I do have a trial version of this. TypeType's very good about offering trials. So they've got 3 different main, what would you call these? Subfamilies. They've got text, subhead, and display. But the cool thing is this is all built into one variable font. So you can use the optical grade or the optical size axis to adjust between all of these. Let me continue with the description. TT Regins is a highly versatile and functional. Different styles can be used for different tasks. Creating font pairs within a typeface, it will look harmonious in fashion magazines and brand identities of museums and cultural institutions. Okay, we're not going to keep reading through all that marketing. Let's go ahead and look at these. These specimens here are pretty similar to what we're going to see on the website, but the difference on the website is that we can look at them nice and big. So let me see if I can zoom in on this a little more. Oh, that's nice. Okay. So TypeType always does incredible specimens. I know this here looks a little boring, but this stylistic set is very important if so you know what you're actually getting. But in terms of like the visual graphic specimens, I think that they always look amazing. Got some symbols, they're calling them icons on here. So they've got some icons built into the typeface. They're always very thematically on point. So you've got some royal, looks like chess inspired typefaces, as well as face cards for like a deck of cards, for playing cards. So that's pretty cool. Let's see if we can keep going through these. My arrow keys are not working, probably because I zoomed in too much. Let's just keep it right here and we'll flip through them like this. Oh no, it's just because I went too far. Okay, we're gonna zoom back in. There we go. All right, there we go. So we've got some open type features here that you can see. Localizations, that's gonna be great for different scripts and styles and stuff. Different scripts and languages and things like that. Probably not super applicable if you speak English and you don't design in any other languages, but they do have plenty of other features for you that would be useful in another workhorse. I know this might seem at first glance that it's not a workhorse, but with the text size, the text optical sizing, it definitely could be. This is a typeface that I think would be really great for publications. You can see all the glyphs right there. Let me see the glyph count. There are 1,277 Roman glyphs, and then in the italic, there are 1,285. But you can see all 3 of them right here. So they've got German, Czech, and Norwegian. And the German is listed shown in display. So that's the big one up top there. They've got Czech as the subhead, that bold, slightly larger, the medium, the mama bear. And then in the baby bear, the text size there is the Norwegian. And you can see all these look great. And they pair together very well, obviously, because they're all built on the same foundation. 230 languages. 34 open type features, and 36 total styles. They claim 38, but they're counting the 2 variable fonts here, so I don't count those. But they've got 18 Roman, 18 italic, and then they've got the 2 variable fonts. I believe they've got a variable font. Let's pull this up. I believe they've got a variable font for all this looks like it's built into one, but I do think there are 2 separate font files. I think Affinity's just handling it for me. They've got a variable font for the italic and then a variable one for Roman. Maybe. Let's see. Yeah, so there's 2 different variable fonts, one for italic, one for Roman, but in app you wouldn't notice which one you were using. You would just need to know that when you're uploading it to a web page or something like that, because you would want to make sure you're working with the right one. So this is all 3 different ones. And like I said, let's see if we can get this pretty big. I want to have access to the UI still. Up top there is TT Regins display. You can see it's very high contrast, very modern. You've got TT Regins, they're calling this, or TT Regins subhead. This is kind of like the in-between. and then TT Regins text. So when you get a variable font with optical size on it, which is not entirely rare, but it's not super common either, it harkens back to like traditional metal typefaces, because optical sizes would have been created. You would have been casting a separate, metal piece for each size, and they would adjust the typeface to look good at each one of those sizes. So that's kind of what we're looking at here with this optical size variable axis. Let me just go ahead and run it back and forth. You'll get an idea of what I'm talking about. Then I'll keep blabbering on. At default, subhead is set to 36 point by default. Display, let me go ahead and get rid of both of these. Display, oh goodness, didn't want that. Display is set to 60. So let's just set this to TT Regins here. Let's get this centered real quick. TT Regins, make this nice and big. TT Regins, by default, if you're in the variable font and you've got your optical size up to 60, it's going to be the display one. If you take it down to 36, this is the subhead. And then if you take it all the way down to 12, that's going to be your text size. So they're going by like 12-point font, it'd be like this big on your screen. So the good thing about having that as an axis, instead of just having like a static text file, a static subhead file, a static display style, is that you can get all those in-betweens. So it goes from 12 up to 60. Obviously, you can put anything above 60 in this. You can use any of these for bigger sizes. But if you tried to put this 60 optical size at small, you're going to lose all of those really thin strokes on there. So that wouldn't be a good idea. But I think it's pretty cool because you could use it as intended and then say you wanted to set this in 48 point, rather than using one of those 3 standard optical sizes. You can use the axis, the variable font axis, to get this at 48. Or if you're using 18 point, or a lot of websites use 16 point, instead of using 12, bump it up to 16. And then similarly, we've got the weight, and the weight can get pretty extreme. It's nice and beefy. At 900, goes from 300 down to up to 900. So you really do have a lot that you can do here. Let me go ahead and undo all this so we can get all three of these back. I did not do a specimen. Goodness, I really worked this one through, didn't I? There we go. So there's all 3 of them right there. I didn't do a specimen of my own for all 3 of them compared, because I do think that this page right here does a pretty good job of showcasing it for you. You can see the text version. It doesn't have any dark spots on it. It doesn't have any spots that are gonna like draw your eye to any spots that shouldn't be there. All of the spacing looks great. Everything looks very, very nice. And I think that it's difficult to achieve that where you go from like a complete display typeface all the way down to text size. But they've nailed it with that optical size axis on there. So I think it's really impressive. The sad news for me is the license. I'm just going to leave it at that. Let me go ahead and show you objectively what the license looks like, and then you can decide for yourself how you feel about it. TT Regins complete collection. We got to get the complete collection so we can get those 2 variable fonts. I do think you can get. So we're sitting at about $300 for the full collection. That's going to include all the static weights and the variable fonts. You could just get all the static weights for $272, but I mean, please spend the extra $33 and get the variable fonts, or just only buy the variable fonts for $272. Honestly, if you want to save $35, you could do that. There might be someday some use case or some application where a variable font doesn't work though. So I would just bite the bullet now, pay $300 for this if I was going to purchase this. But if you can see over here on the right, let me zoom back out a little bit. If you can see over here on the right, we're looking at, get rid of that one, about $300 for the desktop license, $307. But then they've got them broken down for web app, like we typically see, digital ads, video and broadcasting, video games, ebook, book publishing, server, and unlimited. A lot of these people are never going to use. Like, I'm never going to use the server, probably not going to use book publishing, but if you need a book publishing, you need to buy ebook, and you need to buy book publishing to do like a physical book, and then you're looking at thousands of dollars, which, you know, maybe that's reasonable, maybe it's not. But the video one is one that always hurts me because I make YouTube videos. So this does specifically say includes video blogs. So for one YouTube video, I would need to pay $615 on top of the regular desktop license. If you think that's reasonable, perfect, go buy this. For me, that's a huge red flag, despite the fact that I think TypeType does incredibly beautiful typefaces, very complete, very professional, just, you know, top tier. But that font license always leaves a sour taste in my mouth. What doesn't, though, is Future Fonts. Great segue, Curtis. Future Fonts, if you don't know, has basically, I would say, like one step above a beta font. These are works in progress, and Future Fonts is a marketplace that is a host to a lot of independent foundries and independent designers. This one here that we're looking at is from Hex, and that is from Nick Sherman. I think of Nick Sherman as the Franklin Gothic guy. I have watched multiple presentations of him speaking about Franklin Gothic. I think he did one for Cooper Union. I think he did one for Future Fonts. He's probably done others. But he did so much research on Franklin Gothic that he created his own, and it could be argued to be the best version of Franklin Gothic that there is. His version is Hex Franklin, and it looks like this might actually be available on Future Fonts too. So this isn't what we're talking about today, but let me just go ahead and check this one out for us. Yeah, so $300 for that one, but that's another beast for another day. But that is what I think of when I think of Nick Sherman and Hex. Today, though, this typeface that we're going to look at is Shop Sans, and it is solving a very specific problem that you have probably dealt with before if you have ever tried to design on a curve. Let me go ahead and show you. He's got a great specimen. I made one in Affinity, and then he made one here. So this is not available for trial. So me doing this in Affinity wasn't his exact typeface, but you could probably see right there. Let me see if I can zoom in even a little more on this. Let's see if we get this full screen. There we go. You can see the difference. You can turn it on and off, and this typeface can be turned on and off. So this is the actual Shop Sans that's being altered right now. The way that it works is through a variable axis. I'll talk about that in a second. But this is the problem that it's solving. When you type on a curve like this, you know, a lot of logos, you want to make a badge or something, you want to put it in a circle. The fonts, typically you would do it at like a bigger size. So maybe you would do it, he's got a lot of small sizes on. You typically do it something more like this, right? So it wouldn't be quite as noticeable, but you still don't get the precision, the perfection that Shop Sans is offering with this variable axis. I haven't personally come across a font that does this before. If you have, let me know, leave a comment. I'd love to check out some other ones, but I love what would you call this? No, what do I always say? I love purpose-built typefaces. I love good backstories on typefaces, but I love purpose-built typefaces. And this one is built for one specific purpose, and that is to put type on curves, types on circles, and this solves a very specific but very useful problem. And it is making these letters curve around the top and bottom of the circle. Okay, let's talk about, let's read the description so we can be pretty objective about this. And then I'm gonna look at the studio notes or the font notes as well. Shop Sans, this is his description. Shop Sans is a typeface for setting text on circles and curved text paths. So you can see here, you can actually do this sort of, what do they call that? The beauty line, I forget what that's called, but you can do convex and concave. So its curve variable font enables adjustments to optimize detail for blending type smoothly with an adjustable radius. So you're gonna be adjusting the radius based on how big the circle is, how big the curve is. The normal non-curved variant can also be used in standard settings. So you can see right here, this is the non-curved variant. But if you look at this font circles, this word here, you can see that that's what it's going to look like if you're messing with the variable features on a flat baseline. So you could do that to play around, but it looks pretty terrible. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that you can use just the regular version of it, and then you can also use this circle version. I'll get to why you probably can't actually use this as the typical version in a second, at least right now. But let's go ahead and finish reading this. The design channels a general workaday feeling from 20th century commercial and industrial lettering that is blunt and plain spoken, but not sterile. Is it sterile or sterile? Sterile. So, Evie, tell me how to say your name, because I know you've been here a bunch of times and I always feel bad because I'm not sure how to say it. Is it Evie or Evie? Or maybe neither one. Says, nice font, almost reminds me of the Warner Bros. Sans. Wonder if it was an inspo. Oh, that's an interesting point. Yeah. Yeah, it does remind me of that, doesn't it? On that badge of theirs. Good point. Yeah, so I think that this solves a very specific use case. Let me go ahead and read the studio notes real quick. I think you're probably getting an idea of what this does. The second choice, thank you. So Evie. Is that right? I forget which order I said them in. Evie or Evie? I don't know how you could say that. I don't know how you could write it that would make sense. He said, yes. I'm going to go with Evie then. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to say Evie. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let's go ahead and look at the version notes though. Evil. Evie like evil. Perfect. Thank you. Good to see you again, by the way. Version notes here. This is the initial release of Shop Sans. It includes a variable curve font allowing for optimizations when setting type on curves, both upward convex and downward concave curves. So what he's saying here is you can do the top and the bottom. And you would have to do that with these. You would have to set like an actual top and bottom, because if you type this all the way around, you could do that, but the words would keep at the bottom, they would be upside down. So you do have to set two different sets of text here. A static font for setting type on a typical flat baseline is included, and then you get a set of stylistic alternatives. So there is a note here about the font size, but I think that that'll only apply if you actually download this. Basically, the font size is the capitals are set to 100 point, then it's actually 100 point. Typically, the M square of your font file is bigger than the cap size, so this is going to look really big next to another 100 point typeface. But this font here, it really is in a beta version, and he makes a point to note that. If I can zoom this in a bunch. These are the characters that come with it. So probably enough to get you by on like this type of design. But it's just all the uppercase, the numbers, and a little bit of punctuation. Probably enough to get by, but not enough to actually use the baseline version of it as like a workhorse. That's what I would really love to see from this, is have the baseline version be like a practical font that you can use. You know, you could pair this with something else. It's not like it looks so different from, I don't know, even like Franklin Gothic, like we talked about before, the art, you know, it's a little different, but you could find another sans serif to pair this with. But it'd be really cool if you could actually pair this with a traditional baseline version of it. Oh, look, here's him working it out in, that looks like Adobe. I'm not sure if that's Illustrator or if that's in InDesign, but you can see him working with it there. So it should work similarly in Affinity products as well, or any other type design software. But you can see the way the variable font works, or the variable axis works, is going to take you from 0 to 50, and you can get pretty curved in there. I don't think you're going to be typing on a curve that's that small. But yeah, you'd probably, you know, I'm not sure if you'd be able to get it perfect, but you'd probably be able to get it pretty perfect for most situations. So I think that's a really interesting typeface. I've never seen anything like that. If someone else has before, please let me know, because I would like to compare them. Unfortunately, no trial version for this, but as usual, Future Fonts does have a great web license, or great font license. You can't use this for an app, but you can use it for desktop and web, and you'll get all of the free updates for this. So you pay for it now, all the updates until this reaches final release and beyond. Nick Sherman, Hex Projects, Future Fonts, they will give you all of the updates, and they'll email you and let you know that it's been updated, and you download those updates for free. So right now there are 21 styles, but those 21 styles are basically these different curves. The glyph count's only 119, so very, very small. But it looks cool. And if there's anyone that I would trust to like turn this into a full featured font, a very usable font, it would be Nick Sherman, just based on this Franklin Gothic work alone. So I don't think it'll end up becoming as big as of a family as that, but I do think just seeing like his craftsmanship and his care and his articulate way of speaking about typography, I think that he'll end up making this worth your $60 if you did that. The last typeface that I'm going to look at is going to be Laboratorium, and this is from Igor. I talked about him at the top of the show. This one I'm not going to have a ton to say about, but I think some of you might be interested because you can email him and you can get on this beta list as well. So this is Laboratorium right here. The things that I think are interesting about this are that this is like a huge undertaking. He is planning, let me go ahead and read it for you. Yeah, let me read it. I don't want to spoil it. I'll just read what he says. Laboratorium, let me go ahead and do like a little bit of a split screen here so you have something nice to look at. Let's see. One, maybe. Tab. Okay, so that's Laboratorium there. Laboratorium is a highly legible typeface with comprehensive language support covering Latin, Cyrillic, and Greek writing systems with impressive 11,360 glyphs per font. Let me go ahead and repeat that because we talked about some big ones today, but 11,360 glyphs per font. The type family includes small caps, petite caps, and enclosed alphabets. Reduced ornamentation makes it an ideal choice for scientific, legal, and academic publications. A vast array of symbols, arrows facilitate its use in reference works and magazines. Moreover, the extensive range of special features enables Laboratorium to format exquisite literary publications. So I think you kind of get an idea of what this is intended to be. It's again a very specific use case, but you could definitely use this for publications. But it does sound like he's really aiming to make this like a universal academic publication, scientific, legal, just like a very professional typeface. And I know at this small text size, you're probably not getting a ton of reference about what's going on here. So I'm going to go ahead and max out Affinity here. And I want to point out the close-up details, and then I want to point out some of the features that are included with this. I don't have any affiliation with Igor, but this is linked in the description to go to the website. You would have to email him to get on the beta list. But what I've seen so far from this is really, really cool. I like these serifs or these terminals here. They're almost like an etched stone or something, like the facets of a stone. But go ahead and switch over to the typography version. But what is crazy about this, I don't know if you're even going to be able to see this. Let me see if I can just like max this out. All of this I'm scrolling right now are all of the OpenType typography features. I know this is like all the way on the left side of your screen. Maybe I can, yeah, let's do it like this. All of these features that I'm scrolling through on the right side of the screen are the OpenType features that are in this beta font right now. Hundreds and hundreds of alternates, just so many different options for everything that you can think of. This really is a huge undertaking, and that makes sense. You know, it's 11,000 plus glyphs. But if we just go through like even a few of these, they've got all the /0s and stuff like that, you know, typical number stuff. Let's see if I can find a few of the fun ones that I was looking at. Lowercase to petite caps. So you can change those terminals if you wanted something that was a little bit more open. It's still got a little bit of a facet on there, you can see. So it still feels like it belongs together. But there's chess notation in here. There's 4 different variations of the $sign. There's like, I don't know, 17 different variations of an N. Let me show you this real quick. N. Let's just make this huge. Oh, shoot. I don't know what that was. This will be the last thing I show on this one because we got some other stuff to talk about. But I just want to give like a demonstration of how ridiculous this typeface is in terms of all of the different alternates. Maybe if I can get it to work. Okay, so those are the up and down ones, like the superior Did I lose it? Are they supposed to be capital N's? Maybe it's not working for me. This is beta after all. Anyway, I should have more thoroughly tested this out before I tried to show it off. I think the typeface in general looks beautiful on its own. I love all these little facets and stuff that are on here. I love that you can turn them off if you want to. And I find the entire endeavor to be very impressive. That this already has. I dropped this into Wacom Fondue. Let me go ahead and do this for you real quick. I dropped this into Wacom Fondue, and it already has 11,210 glyphs to it. Maybe this will take up too much time. But let me go ahead and drop this in here because I think it'll be able to showcase the features better than I can right now. Yeah, that'll be way better than trying to do this in Affinity. Let me go ahead and do this. And also gives in another chance to shout out Pixel Ambrocht here and Wacom Fondue. If you don't know, you can drop any typeface in here. So I'm dropping this font file in right now. And it's going to take a second. This font's huge, so it might take 2 seconds. But it's going to give you all of the information on the typeface. This is the beta version of the site. If it's not working, I might switch it out and retry. We got to refresh this. Let's try again. Maybe. Well, looks like we're hitting a wall here. I've showcased this on the channel before, so if you're familiar with this, it works much better than it than it looks like it is right now. Let's go back to the regular website. Maybe it's just the beta version that's not working out for us. Yeah. Oh, it was starting to work right when I did that. It was starting to work. Let's just try and drop it into the regular one. I dropped that in and downloaded it. There we go. Okay, so here's what it does. You drop it in, it tells you that this has 92 layout features. So like I was saying, maybe I exaggerated when I said hundreds. It has 92 layout features. Right now, the version that's out, the beta version that I'm testing, has 11,210 glyphs. So not quite up to that 11,360 yet, but that's still absolutely insane. And then you can see all of these different layout features right here. And if you scrolled through, you could see the CSS for it, and you can see all these icons and stuff that he's built into the typeface. It's going to be crazy. But let me take my face off. I had it on there because I felt bad that we were just staring at a blank screen for a little bit. Let's go ahead and talk about a new Type Foundry. This one's pretty interesting. We have seen him before because we've talked about him on Future Fonts, and I actually don't know how to say his name. But this, he changed his name on here. So it redirects now. He used to work as a solo as Teo. There he is right there. Teo Tuominen. But he launched a foundry. So similar to what we saw from Alana like a month or two ago. Alana started Arcane Type. Teo has started Spoke Type. So I always think it's interesting when people go from being individual designers to launching an actual foundry, a full foundry. I don't think it's going to change the quality of anything, but it does kind of change the perspective. So I think that's pretty cool. And it looks like the Future Fonts actually updated. So all of his old typefaces are now going to be under the Spoke title, the Spoke Type Foundry name. So that's pretty cool. But we talked about Fulcrum on one of the episodes, I think. I think we talked about Fulcrum in one of the episodes. Hopefully I didn't skip that one. Anyway, we've seen him before. Just wanted to give a quick shout out. There's not a ton to say. New foundry. But there he is right there. Maybe someone to keep on your radar or follow on Instagram or check out on Future Fonts. I have Spoke Type linked in the description. The next one is a strange one. This is something else new, and it is from FontLab. This is Vexy lines, and this actually came from an employee that works there now. I think it might be in the description here, but I'll go ahead and just give my brief overview of it. So this is from FontLab, like the company that makes FontLab 8 that that makes like a font editor, and it's this vector application that costs $100. I did download it and tried to play with it a little bit. You can download the trial and you can actually use the entire full trial 100%. There's no limitations on it aside from you cannot export anything. So I mean, I guess if you wanted to be a jerk, you could screenshot the result and then just post that. But it's got all of these different like line texture algorithms that can turn your photos into different things. It's pretty crazy. It seems more like features that you would have in a typical vector design app, but it's really just all built into this one. So you can try it for free on Mac and Windows. There's no time limit. There's no limitations on, you know, any of the features or anything like that. You can do everything that you want with it. You just can't export. But if you want to buy it to like actually export stuff, that's going to cost $100. Let's go ahead and play this. Maybe they'll showcase it a little bit better than how I'm talking. I don't think you can do video. I'm not sure what that was, but you can see like a little bit of what they're doing with it here. All kinds of patterns. You can actually put typography in there. I think we've probably seen some of that before, but all kinds of different patterns and textures and stuff. This isn't something that I would typically cover, but the reason I am is because it's coming from FontLab, which I find so strange, unless you read the description. And basically someone who works at FontLab now used to have this app called Strokes Maker, and he works there now, and they rebuilt the app from the ground up, or they rebuilt the app, added a bunch of polish to it, and now it's turned into like a full-featured FontLab offering. So interesting, I guess, if you're into that, but I think it's interesting just because it came from FontLab. The big news from this week, I could probably turn on my face cam for this one, even though it's getting a little hot in here. I'm feeling kind of sweaty. I don't know, there's going to be a ton of stuff to look at on the screen. If you paid attention to Adobe MAX this week, you will know the name of the game is AI. They tripled down on AI. You know, for the last 3 years, they've been talking about AI. No exception. They're just going as ham as ever with it. Firefly AI. Now they're actually building in some other AI models as well. I know they're working with Google and someone else. I forget who it was. But yeah, so they've got Google in there. What is it? There's like Nano Banana. Is that what they have maybe? But they're working with YouTube. They're working with all these different things. But for them, they built Firefly essentially into like every app. A lot of it you can't use because a lot of it is like in progress, but the stuff they're doing just seems absolutely insane. Like if you're someone that's diehard AI, or someone that's even like interested in generative AI and stuff like that, or how it might be able to help your workflow, crazy. That's not me, unfortunately, so this doesn't really appeal to me right now anyway, but I think that this is going to be useful for people doing like really, really big scale productions in terms of like saving a bunch of time and stuff like that, if the features actually come out, because a lot of them are like beta and in progress, and you can trial them and stuff like that if you're on certain lists. So yeah, I'm not actually going to showcase anything. And unfortunately, I think I did link the YouTube, I linked the Creative Cloud channel, and I linked the Adobe Live channel. I don't think there's anything on the Creative Cloud channel right now. That's where all the lives took place. But if you missed out on it, then you just can't watch it anymore. So they're not on here. The ones they have are from 1 year ago. But Adobe Live does have all of their stuff from Adobe MAX, but it's not like the official, what would you say? Like it's not the official keynotes. It's not any sessions or anything like that. So it's kind of like, there are some watch parties for when they replay the Adobe MAX in Asia, but then you have to listen to people talking over it. Unfortunately, Adobe, their Creative Cloud channel, they just removed everything. The second that the live stream ended, they privated the videos. So say that you paused it for like 30 minutes while you ate food or something, you better hope that you used 2x speed to watch the rest of it, because you just don't get to see the rest of it until maybe one day they decide to post clips or something of it. So if you missed it, it's just a ton of AI. And if you want to see a lot of it, you can go to Adobe News. That's why I linked that in the description, because basically all these news stories here are what they talked about. And you can scroll through these and see maybe there's something that'll be interesting to you if that is interesting. But the next day, Affinity came and stole the show. Like I said, let me go ahead and switch over to this one. I'm not going to talk about this for a ton because, like I said at the top of the show, I did 2 hours on this on Thursday, and I'm going to be doing, I don't know how much more time on this coming Wednesday after I give like a week 1 review of it. But Affinity's free now. All 3 apps are free, and like really, really free. Like you can just download it. You do have to have a Canva account to do it. So since they're owned by Canva now, but this is it. You have these little tabs up here at the top that go into like different studios. You've got your typical ones like layout, layout, vector, and pixel would be like designer, photo, and what am I doing? Designer, photo, and publication. But they've got even more. They've basically got everything that used to be a persona now exists as one of these studios that you can turn on or turn off. They do have Canva AI built in, but you can turn that off. The Canva AI is the only thing that would cost money if you want to do it. I've been testing it so far, not impressed. I'm just on like a 30-day trial. I can't imagine paying for it, but maybe I will change my mind. But yeah, so they've got all those. But the coolest part of it is that you can set up your own. So I've got one named Curtis here, and you can add everything. I can't underestimate, or I can't overstate how much you can customize this. Imagine like every tool that's in the entire app. You can put every single tool in the sidebar over here in any order that you want. You can do the title bar or the toolbars up top in any like way that you could possibly imagine. You can do the panels. You can add whatever panels you want. I don't know how many panels are in here, like 60, 70 panels. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but like imagine every panel, every tool, every toolbar that existed in Photo Designer and Publication. So for the Adobe users, InDesign, Photoshop, and Illustrator, imagine all those crammed into one, and then you can take the different tools and set up the UI however you want to. That's what this is for free. It's crazy. So let me go ahead and just like scroll through this. I don't want to talk about this a ton, like I said, but I am pretty excited about it. It's just really interesting. And the CEO or I don't know if he's the CEO of Affinity. I think he's the CEO of Affinity. Had to come out and be like, there's like a 7-minute video on YouTube. Did I link it? Let me see. I think I might have linked it. No, this was the announcement. So there's the announcement is linked in the description, but go look, there's a thing that's like, how is this free? And it's on the official Affinity YouTube channel. And the CEO's like, look guys, it's free because Canva makes so much money. Like we have a sustainable business with Canva, so we can give this away. Our plan is that if you professionals, creatives, if like you guys use this, then more people will sign up for Canva because of the integrations. You will make stuff that can integrate into Canva and other people will buy Canva because everyone's worried about being monetized. Everyone's worried about being having their work trained on AI. They specifically say like, we're not training your stuff on AI. You don't have to use AI. You can completely turn it off if you don't want to. That's the only thing that costs money. And it's like, depending on region where you're at, I think it's like $10 a month. In some regions, in Brazil, it's only like $5 a month because the income here is lower. I'm American, but I'm living in Brazil, if you don't know. So if I was in the US, I think it would cost me about $100 a year, but in Brazil, it's just about 60. But yeah, I can't, clearly it's probably coming across. I'm very excited about this new Affinity. And I'm not going to talk about it again on the Typography News, but I did just want to point out that I do think it's a really great tool that everyone could check out for free right now. And I will have my new Affinity review series. It's going to start on Wednesday, and it's just going to be a live stream. Going to basically do like a week 1 review, 1 month review. I don't know. We'll do it as often as I feel like it's needed, but just to follow up on it and keep people who want news on Affinity to have like a separate thing, because I know not everybody that wants typography news wants news about Affinity and vice versa. So that's actually it. We're going to finish a little early today, huh? I'm usually rushed to the last minute. Let me go ahead and switch to my face cam. I guess we'll get out of here. That's going to be it for today. I do think Affinity is worth checking out. I do think you should go download Brandon Nickerson's BN Brownstone, because that's going to be free for maybe another day or two. And then if you're feeling very generous, please spend 99 cents and do the trial for Audible. That's linked somewhere. I think that's linked in the description as well. And I'll probably pen a comment when this goes fully published. When this is like in a replay or whatever you would say, whenever the stream ends. Because it really, really would help. Like I said, I can't say how much I would earn off of that, but it would cost you 99 cents, and I would really appreciate it, because then I could buy more typography books and stuff like that. So that's going to be it. Thanks for hanging out. Evie, nice to see you. Finally glad that I know how to say your name correctly. And anyone else that hung out today, nice to see you as well. Next time you guys should chat as well. I will see you all next week for Typography News number 24. Bye.